Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals in Week 14. Finally, we play this NFC West foe. How are the Rams going to bounce back from a bad loss against Carolina and win this game? Me and Mark will talk about that next on this Keys to Victory episode here on the Rams Up Podcast Network. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Rams Up Podcast Network. I'm Ian. That's Mark. If you're on YouTube, you enjoy our content, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any other episode throughout this crazy 2025 campaign. And if you're on the audio only and or podcast only side of things, hey, share the podcast, share the audio with your friends. Any of those options helps other Rams fans see our content. And guys, we very much appreciate it. But before we get started with this game preview episode, we have a quick message from the sponsor of this video, MyBookie.
Yeah, we're sponsored by MyBookie, and they got quite a deal here. Log on, create an account, use that promo code RAMSUP, and you get up to $500 in bets fully covered. Quite the deal. They had a nice little Thanksgiving lock of the season thing going on, and they're going to have some really sweet Christmas bets as well. We'll be talking about in the next couple of weeks. This week, I found 3 games that I really like. I kind of like the Cowboys getting 3 points at Detroit, a Thursday night game. The Bears plus 6.5 against the Packers, a divisional matchup, big game in the NFC North. And then I like the Chargers. They're getting 3 points at home against the Eagles. This Eagles team, I don't know, man. I think this is going to be one heck of a game, and I like the Chargers and the points. In fact, I'd take the Cowboys and the Chargers on the money line, pay back a little bit extra there for you. But MyBookie, promo code RAMSUP, check it out.
Thanks, MyBookie, for sponsoring this video. And man, bet all your money on the Rams winning this game. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. That's probably not a smart idea. But holy crap, Mark. I mean, I'm still irritated about that Panthers loss, but just like the players, just like the coaches and the whole Rams organization, you got to move on and you got to say, all right, learn from it, improve from it, and we got to win some more ball games with Rams Cardinals Week 14. Isn't it crazy we're barely playing them? Crazy.
Yeah, I know. We got 2 left with them, and they, they're going to battle us. They've, their record this year, they're in most of their games. And talking about the Rams, and if it makes you feel any better, and it probably won't. I saw this link. Hey, what's happened with the power rankings? The number 1 ranked Rams have lost. What's the shakeup? And I think it might have been Sports Illustrated. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. And I opened it up, and they said, you know what? The Rams are still the number 1 ranked team. They go to a rainy field across the country, and they play kind of crappy. We're going to give them a mulligan. They're still the best team in the National Football League. So that made me feel a little bit better because I was expecting, I did see one poll where they dropped to 4th. I know polls are polls. How much weight do we put on them? But just trying to make you feel a little bit better. It's not the end of the world. This is still a really good football team, and they just need to bounce back this week in a big way.
Well, you know what made me feel better is seeing Jeff Howe's tweet earlier this week, as he put out a fun stat for everyone to digest. And I did retweet this with some other fun banter with Patriot fans, and they got all pissy in my replies and all that, which is fun to see. And, sports crap talk is always enjoyable, right? But he said here, if you're not on YouTube, quote, playoff seeding, including each team's record against current playoff teams. So it has all the teams listed of what they currently are, but then it has the record next to that of the playoff teams they've beat. So to read them off very quickly here, from the NFC, that's what we care about the most, truthfully. Bears are 1-1 against playoff teams. Rams are 6-2 against current playoff teams. Eagles are 3-2. Bucks are 2-4. Seahawks are 1-3. Packers are 0-1. And then 49ers are 2-3. And then for all the Drake May for MVP, truthers out there. Patriots are 2-0 against playoff teams that are currently in the mix. So the Rams are far and away, everyone, the most, challenged or battle tested team you can call it. 6-2. They've played 8 playoff teams thus far in the season. Again, playoff teams meaning teams that are currently in the 1-7 seeding from AFC and NFC. And then again, the next closest team is the Eagles, who are 3-2. So for everyone out there, it's like, Rams are fraudulent, yada, 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 yada. Well, go ahead and pull this up for the time being. You can flaunt this stat on a bunch of haters out there, or whoever you're debating. So to your power ranking comment, Mark, that's fine and dandy. I know people, that's all very opinionated and subjective. This is objective. And the
Well,
Rams, just a crappy loss to the Panthers, they're still a good team. They still have a chance to win the West. They still have a chance to be the number 1 seed and do everything that they are set out to accomplish. Yes.
yeah, it's amazing that they've played 8 teams that would currently make the playoffs. And, they say, the old saying is, you run through the gauntlet, it's going to make you tougher, going to make you better. We hope that's the case because,
Yeah.
The Rams have played some really good football teams and come out of it pretty good.
And they have. And, we have our fair share of guys that are filling in for injured starters and have rotated in. And we'll get to some other nitty gritty about those situations later. But how about that Rams versus Cardinals history, right? Where these teams who have been in the NFC West together since the realignment, back in, what year was that, Margo? Don't quote me on anything I say on that real quick. I'm drawing a blank right now for whatever reason. 2000.
Oh, I don't even know. I can do a search while you're talking here.
Anyway, we'll let Mark do that. But here's the full history of all the recent matchups. Regular season Rams have the edge 51-41, and there's 2 ties in there. And then, the one that matters the most, or the 2 that matters the most, is 2-0 against them in the playoffs. The most recent playoff win was during the Super Bowl 21 season. I was at that wild card game where we just obliterated Kyler Murray's Cardinals, where they had a chance to win the NFC West that entire year. And then, like typical Cardinal fashion, they just melted at the end of the season. And we had some help to win the division then, too. I mean, shout out to Seattle. They helped us out when we lost to the Niners. And do you remember the last playoff matchup, Mark?
Was that the playoff game where was it Nick Scott or who was it that picked off the pass?
No. The one before that, the very first playoff game. I'm sorry, we're talking OG days.
Oh, was it Jim Hart? Or no, that was the St. Louis Cardinals.
It was when good old Lawrence McCutcheon, for all you OGs, ran for 200 yards in the divisional round. I think Youngblood had a pick 6 or a fumble recovery.
Oh, that probably was the Jim Hart Cardinals.
I think so. Yeah.
I remember that day because we were actually playing football down at the junior high school, listening to that game on the radio.
Nice. So that's
they clobbered them. Yeah.
That was a good game. It was a high scoring one. Rams won that second round playoff game. So the 2 that mattered the most, they've got it done, thankfully. But in the recent years, though, Mark, as we pull up next, the last 5 games versus these Cardinals, they've been a lot closer than I think people give it credit or will realize, truthfully. Let's go back to the disaster 2022 season as Wolford was starting that game, and they just got obliterated against Colt McCoy, I believe, was in that game, just tearing us up. I mean, it was just going bad. That was a fat L. Then we jumped to 2023. Much better, right? We were playing another backup Cardinal. It was Josh Dobbs. It was a nail biter for a little bit. I think, Kyron Williams had a couple big fumbles, and then he hurt his ankle in that game, if my memory's right. But we won that game. Then we had the second matchup where we just absolutely annihilated them, 37-14. And that was a great showing where it was like, hey, this team's legit. This team's not in a rebuild, right? We're retooling, whatever lesson he called. Then 2024, right? We lose the heartbreaker Sunday night against the Lions in overtime. And then the next week, they just get absolutely obliterated by Marvin Harrison and Kyler Murray. It might have been Kyler Murray's best game as a professional. And to this day, that is Marvin Harrison's best day as a pro as well. Obviously, he's only been in the league a year and little over a half, right? Year and 3/4, you could call it. That was a bad day. Cooper Kupp gets hurt. Nakua's not in there. Tre'Davious White's is getting absolutely schooled. The secondary pass rush Jared Verse couldn't sack Kyler. That was a bad day. Then the last matchup, everyone, if you remember that Saturday game on NFL Network, that was a nail biter where Rams offense couldn't do jack tiddly squat. Luckily, our defense was holding them in check for the most part. But my God, Akello Witherspoon probably saved that season. And we talked about it in that post-game reaction. He did save the season. That game-winning interception off the tip from Murray throwing a laser beam to McBride and it kind of getting bounced off his helmet into the air because McBride didn't see it. That was going to be a touchdown if he sees it in time. And if they don't get it on that play, they probably score anyway from whatever the 3-yard line it was. And that would have been it. Game over. So I say all this to say, everyone, and Mark, I know you know this. These Cardinals, no matter if they're a 4-win team, a 7-win team, a 3-win team as they currently are, they will more likely than not play us tough. These are these division games, everyone, where you throw the record out the window and you say anything could happen. And I feel like this, the history tells us that. And this last matchup, when we were clearly better, that could have kept us out of the playoff tournament and it could have ended our season, but Akello saved us.
Yeah, and it seems like the Cardinals, if you want to get them early in the year, you don't want to get them early in the year because they always seem to come out of the gate fast. And that 41-10 shellacking is a great example. They were on a roll early in the year, and they won a couple of early games this year as well. Mm-hmm. So, man, that was one of the most disappointing games I've ever watched. Watching the Rams, that game, it was just like, what is happening? Are the Cardinals going to the Super Bowl? Are we that bad? One of the two's got to be true. That was a bad loss.
That was bad, and then Akello saved us again. Akello Witherspoon saved our season last year. I think everyone's forgetting that. Thank God for that guy. Hopefully, he starts getting back into the football groove this week and beyond. We need him to, get back to form ASAP. So there you go. Last 5 games, last matchups results. Stafford didn't do jack till he squatted. He was hurt, from the rib shot he took against the Niners a couple weeks sooner or earlier, I should say. Kyron, it was a bad showing from a lot of guys. And geez Louise, thank God we won that game.
But and by the way, that interception, yeah. I knew I got that wrong. It was David Long with that interception in the playoff game. Not
in the playoff game, yeah.
Right.
I was, hey, shout out to Troy Reader. He made a great play. He was gonna safety sack Kyler, and Kyler's like, no, he just threw it up,
right.
Cornhole style, right? Underhand, right. And he got snagged. I was at that game. That was a great atmosphere too. Shout out to all you guys that pulled up to that wild card game way back when.
We also have to give a shout out to the Cardinal organization for loaning us their stadium last year. Right. That was a pretty classy move.
We appreciate that. And, at the end of the day, all the billionaires are all friends trying to make more billions. So I'm sure that was the Kroenke probably maybe had a little side check, cha-ching for what is it? Not Ballmer, it's Bidwell, the Bidwell family. So those things don't have to be recorded. I'm just saying, let's be real with ourselves. But thank you, Cardinals, for letting us whip the Vikings' ass in your stadium last year. That was nice. But we talked about the history, but how are these Cardinals doing right now, everyone? They're having a crappy season. But based on the first 2 weeks, you're thinking, all right, they're alive. They beat the Saints, who, again, have a lot of issues. They beat Carolina. We can't do that, so that's a kudo to them. And then they had a tough loss on primetime they had a tough midday loss against San Fran. Remember, they lose by a point. Kyler just had some bad meltdown moments late in that game. They lose the heartbreaker on Thursday against Sam Darnold and Seattle. They lose that one close. And then they lose another close one to Tennessee. They lose another close game against the Colts. And they lose another close game against the Packers. You see a theme here, everyone.
Yeah,
they have a good win against Dallas, where they whooped them pretty convincingly. Then they themselves get whooped by Seahawks, and then they get whooped by San Fran, and then they have another close loss against Jacksonville in overtime. And then they have another close loss against Tampa. So despite all the quarterback issues, despite multiple starters being on IR, getting off, going back on, interchangeable running backs, Harrison underperforming, tons of issues, Mark. This team's record is so deceiving at them being 3-9. This feels like the opposite of Kansas City last year, everyone. Remember Kansas City was in these games and they were winning them all the time last year, if you remember that season. The Cardinals are doing the exact same, but losing them. I mean, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and pause it. Look at all those close losses. This team is not some joke of a franchise where they're getting obliterated week in and week out. They're not. And Mark, I mean, this game, if the Rams don't show up, long story short, we'll get to the keys of victories a little bit later, but they could lose. Absolutely.
Yeah, and remember, they had the one game. I'm pretty sure they would have won if the running back hadn't spiked the ball at the 1 yard line.
Oh, yeah. Whoever DeMarcado did that or whoever that was. Yeah, I was bad.
Right. I don't know which game that was. It was one of those games in that 5-game losing streak, I think.
It was the Colts one. I want to say it was the Colts game, right?
Okay.
Actually, no, it wasn't. It was, what game was that?
Is it Tennessee?
Tennessee.
Maybe?
It was Tennessee.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
That was one of their few wins.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel you as far as the Cardinals. They're always a fun team to play, but they're Kyron seems to have really good games against him though. Not necessarily last week, but he had that one season. He had two. I think that was Kyron's coming out party. That one game against the Cardinals. We're like, wow. But they're we got a good history of them.
We do, and again, one more time, everyone. The schedule is what it is, but they are not getting obliterated other than a couple times, which happens when you're beat up and you don't got a lot of guys available and you got quarterback issues, right? But how about this Cardinals roster, everyone? Who's out there? Who's available? And who are their best players that we got to keep an eye on and our guys should key in on as well, right? So we'll start with the Cardinals offense here, everyone, where Kyler Murray's on injury reserve. They're kind of like soft benching him. They probably won't admit it, but Jacoby Brissett's just been a better player, Mark. And then old USC man, Keaton Slovis, for all you Southern California football fans out here, that he's the backup currently. But, I mean, Mark, the film don't lie, man. Jacoby Brissett, it operates this offense so much better than Kyler. And maybe because Kyler's short. Maybe if Kyler was 6 foot instead of 5'9", 5'10", whatever he is officially, it probably would be better, but that just shows you, man, like how much they whiffed on him.
Yeah, I've always felt Kyler was the epitome of the quarterback that's too good to move on from, but not good enough to get you to the promised land. And I've never liked, if you've been listening to this podcast, YouTube channel, I've probably said it 20 times, that his body language on the field just drives me crazy. It's just not the body language of a leader. And it's, probably something that's just natural to him. You either got it or you don't. But I have a feeling this may be the end of the road with him in a Cardinals uniform. It kind of has to be, right?
It feels that way. And, they're soft benching him for Jacoby, which can't argue it. He's been keeping them alive. He had a couple games where he really tore it up too. He's been a former starter. He knows what it takes to win. He's a true professional. And, he's a big athletic son of a gun with a big arm. So that's something we got to watch out for sure. And Mark, with the James Conner being on injured reserve, and for anyone out there who missed that, he had a pretty bad ankle injury where he broke it. Was that week 2 against the 49ers, I believe. They've had a bunch of guys fill in, right? DeMarcado's fumbling, celebrating at the goal line. They've had other guys.
Benson.
Yeah, Benson, who was a good player. Who was the other guy they had here for a little bit? I think Carter.
All right, Michael.
Michael Carter. And now they're on Bam Knight, who had a decent day against Tampa last week. So they've been banged up. They've had big issues, but they still, found guys to be able to run the ball and at least be somewhat productive. So that's that group right there. But then we get into the wide receiver core, and let's pull up one of the best players for sure, Marvin Harrison Jr., as his dad is Marvin Harrison Sr., who is a Hall of Fame level receiver that was with Peyton Manning's prime Indianapolis Colts, where they won a Super Bowl together, I believe. That's right. I'm pretty sure they did. And they were a great duo. So the son, who absolutely annihilated us last year in his first game against the Rams, killed us. Right now, having a down year again, which is disappointing, right? For plenty of Cardinal guys, but where does he rank right now and all that, stats and fun goods? Right now, 40 receptions, only 594 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns, but averaging, about 15 yards a catch. So he can stretch the field. That's not his main game. He's just a bigger body guy that can go up and jump, more of a possession receiver, but he can run away from our guys. We've seen that in the past, Mark. And look at based on how Emmanuel Forbes has gotten cooked in recent games against big body receivers, they got to figure out a good game plan. And this feels like an Akella Witherspoon game, Mark, but he is one of their best players. They feed him, they win. They feed him, good things happen, and that's just the truth.
Yeah, I mean, given his draft position, probably overall a little bit disappointing. But
Yeah,
that
sure.
aside, he's a good player, and we just have memories of that game where a lot of people might not even label him as one of their best players, but
Yeah.
we've seen enough of him. Let's just call him a great player, one of their best players.
He is one of their best players for sure. As we get back to the wide receiver group here, then you have Michael Wilson, who has been a lot of fantasy waiver wire pickup. He's been productive. As right, Zay Jones, another starter. He's on injured reserve. You got Andre Basielia, whatever his name is. Apologies, I'm not getting that right off the grip. And they got Greg Dortch, the speedster. So again, a group that you may not say, but a respectable core that could get the job done for sure, Mark, right? All 3 receivers.
Yeah, Dorsch is a speed guy,
Yeah.
and Wilson, a bigger receiver out of Stanford. And last week we had trouble with some three big receivers, so Wilson could pose an additional problem for us. He's a good receiver. I remember
Yeah.
talking about him coming out in the draft. I think Paul Wally really liked him as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, they got guys, and these bigger body people are an issue for our corners. Let's just be real. It's been proven multiple times this season already. So, got to watch out for that group. Whether Marvin Harrison Jr. plays or not, we'll get to the injury report later. But then, Trey McBride, a Pro Bowl level player. And again, real quick, everyone, if you on YouTube and you see a red dot next to a player's name, they've been a Pro Bowler. If you see a green dot, that means they've been an All Pro before. So Trey McBride, a former Pro Bowl man, probably should have been in the Pro Bowl more than what he has, only his one time. And he is one of their best players by far, and probably their most overall lethal offensive guy that's left out there for them. Right now, 88 catches for the tight end position, leads the entire NFL. So Kyler, Jacoby specifically, they're force feeding him, and rightfully so. 879 receiving yards for the tight end. That is 6th best in the NFL. 8 receiving touchdowns, which is tied for 3rd in the NFL for tight ends. And he's averaging about 10 yards a grab. So, I mean, one of the premier players at tight end, can block, great in the screen game, can stretch the field, makes crazy sideline catches, highlight reels, leaps dudes, runs over guys. He is one hell of a player. And, we teased them about missing on Kyler in the first round. Well, they got him right in round 2. And he's been a pain in our ass for many years. And, should have caught the game winner last year, could have ended our season, but luckily it bounced off his helmet and we lived to tell.
I argued last year that he was the best tight end in the league, and he might be. And I remember last year the issue he had. I think he went into the Ram game, almost certain he came into that Ram game with 0 TDs, which was
That's
incredible.
right. Yeah, I forgot about
And
that.
we knew they were going to try to get him the ball, and he got an early touchdown,
Yeah.
and then they tried to get him a second one, and I think either Murray just got rid of the ball earlier than McBride realized, or McBride didn't get turned around. He missed out on that second TD. Good for us, but yeah, he's a tight end playing in Arizona doesn't get the notoriety they deserve. He's one of the best.
Yeah, plain and simple. Game plan for this man heavily, please, Chris Shula. Please. He is someone that could break this game open and keep it close, which I'm hoping is not the case. But as we get back to the offense, how about that O-line? Paris Johnson Jr., a controversial pick for a lot of Cardinals people. They're like, is he talented? Some days people are like, yeah, he's great. Other times they're like, no, he's not. Evan Brown, Halati Fordold, if I said that right, apologies. Will Hernandez, they're starting guards on injury reserve, so he's going to be out. Isaiah Adams, the backups in, and then you got Kelvin Beachum in at right tackle. So this is a group, Mark, that wants to run the football. They're better running the football at times when Will Hernandez specifically was in there as well. But there's moments where they pass protect pretty dang good. It's not all the time. It's not consistent. But for a group that, has underachieved and, backups are filling in, it's not some Joe Schmo, oh my God, the front four, the front seven of the Rams are going to whip them around. They've been competitive.
Yeah, and if our pass rush had not kind of fallen off in recent weeks, and based on what we saw last week, if that hadn't happened against the run, I'd feel really confident against this offensive line, though. Yeah. But now I'm not so confident, but we should match up pretty well against these guys. I really think we would. Now, of course, again, we'll talk about Poona Ford when we get to the injury report. I think we found out last week how important it is to have him at 100%.
Please, Poona, come back healthy. That, Charlie. Yes, you're right. But how about that defense, everyone, right? You see, now again, one more time, you see red dots next to the player's name. They've been a Pro Bowler. You see a green dot. They've been an All-Pro. So the defense, which has been keeping the ship alive for this team, as Jonathan Gannon, the head coach, is a defensive-minded guy running a 4-3 scheme like he did when he was with the Eagles. Again, 4 D linemen, true D linemen, and then 3 standing up linebackers, and then so forth and so forth with the secondary. So that is the base scheme that they run. Josh Sweat, a former Eagle right now, he is one of their best players by far, in my opinion, as Mark, the man who got a lot of money for winning a championship with the Eagles. And it seems like a lot of players throughout NFL history get that quote-unquote bag, and they go to their new team and they never perform nowhere near as good as when they won a Super Bowl. Well, Sweat's been playing pretty dang good right now. 11 sacks, which is tied for 4th best in the NFL, right? That's his skill set. He was drafted and acquired by Philly to be that guy. Well, he's been that guy for the Cardinals when they went and tried to acquire him. 4 forced fumbles, which is tied for second in the NFL, which is crazy. Only 19 solo tackles, and he has more combined as well. But this guy is a freak in nature, Mark, right? You look at him, 6'5", 265. He's got good bend, good power. I mean, Warren McClendon, Alaric Jackson, they've been playing a little bit better as of recently, but they're going to be tested by a super freak on the outside there. And whether Kyron or Blake got to help and chip on that man, do it, because we don't want this guy to strip sack Stafford or get Stafford, banged around more than what he needs to be for this December, I guess rush you could call it, to get a good playoff spot. He is one of their best players, and he's quietly having a fantastic season for a Super Bowl star on his new team.
Yeah, and their coach Gannon is defensive minded, and he's been trying for a couple years now to mold this defense into something he likes, and bring in Sweat was a big move in that direction, and it's worked. There's been some other parts that maybe haven't worked as well, but he's just another guy you got to worry about getting to the quarterback for sure.
Yeah, so we got to watch out for him as we get back to the main depth chart in the starting defense. And then, old man Calais Campbell, returns to the Cardinals. He got drafted by the Cardinals, had some good years and moments with them, left for a bunch of different teams. Now he's back for what may be his final season. I don't remember if he quoted as such that it would be, but he's been a Pro Bowler, just like Sweat. Calais has been an All-Pro before, and everyone out there, remember last year, Monday night against the Dolphins, and Calais Campbell absolutely whipped the hell out of our interior O-line and got multiple pressures and sacks on Stafford. We were like, what the hell, man? So for everyone out there that's thinking, what's this old man going to do? Just go ahead and rewatch that debacle Monday night game against Dolphins last year, and that old man can still play. He is another freak of nature, 6'8", 315, hyper athletic, even though he's been in the league a gazillion years. He'll be a 40-year-old D tackle soon, which is, crazy, or 39, 40, you know what I mean? Right now, 18 solo tackles, has some more combined. Then he has 5.5 sacks for being pushing 40, Mark, which is crazy. He's still finding a way to get to the quarterback, which, again, reminder, that's better than all of our D tackles right now. And he's someone we also have to watch out for because, again, he single handedly blew up our offense last year when he was part of the Dolphins. Let's just call it what it is. He's got that in him still, pushing 40 years old, Mark. We got a game
Yeah,
plan.
I mean, much respect to a guy at 39 years old that he wants to still go out there on a Sunday
Yeah.
and battle like this. When I was pushing 40, I was considering giving up slow pitch softball because it was I just don't want to do this anymore. And here he is pushing, just turned 39 actually, and showing up and playing at a high level. Man, you got to respect the guy.
Got to respect it. And man, oh man, please game plan for this man, Sean McVay. Let's get some double teams on that man. All right, help out Coleman. Coleman's a smaller center. That's not a good matchup for a bigger
No.
body super freak like him. So, hey, Kevin, Mavila, let's get some hands on this guy and make sure he doesn't ruin the game, which, again, he has the ability to do so. But how about the rest of this? Walter Nolan, the high draft pick, the controversial one from college, from Ole Miss. Remember, he's the guy, if anyone's seen any of those memes or pictures of him, he had, I think, like a USC tattoo. He had another tattoo, a different school he was at. He was wearing an Ole Miss cap. He was definitely the NIL poster child of hopping around schools, getting paid to set himself up. But hey, got him set himself up to get drafted high in the first round. And in the moments where he's played, he's had some good moments based on the film I've watched. Hasn't been perfect, right? He's been injured a ton. He's questionable for this game. But he's another guy, Mark, that, again, we just haven't seen a ton of him in a full season to see how consistent he could be. But when he's out there, he's been a disruptor. And that's kind of how he played in college, too. And that was, the glowing superpower of his that made him appealing. And you got to watch out for him, too.
Yeah, McDonald up there in Seattle, defensive coach, drafts Murphy. And then Gannon here in Arizona, defensive coach, drafted Nolan. They're just desperate to mold a defense exactly as they like it. And that's kind of how I saw that Nolan pick. Maybe a little high where they took him, but he's just, I think this Arizona coach just wants to have a stout, kick-ass defense and just doing everything he can to get there. I'm not sure. I don't think they've gotten there quite yet.
Yeah.
But they're overall pretty good unit. I just don't know if Nolan, just like Harrison, are really worthy of where they got picked.
Yeah, and we'll see if he plays against us. If he does, that'll be a plus on their side. And then you got Darius Robinson, Akeem Davis-Gaither, and then you have Cody Simmon, Xavier Collins on the inside there, with Mac Wilson Sr. on IR dealing with issues himself. And then Will Johnson, the Michigan man who fell in the draft because he had medical issues when teams were testing him out and going through, his charts of goods when he wanted to get drafted, right? This is somebody that you and I really liked a lot in the draft too, Mark. We would have been fine with him getting picked in round 1 late for us. Didn't pick him in round 2. We passed on him for our Oregon tight end. But, hey, he's been shaping up. He's had some good moments, had some bad as a rookie. He's out there. Jalen Thompson, the safety. You got Max Melton, Garrett Williams, and then Budda Baker, the longtime Arizona Cardinal, who has been a Pro Bowler, been a multi-All-Pro. And if you guys remember that one mic'd up clip from Sean McVay back, what was that, 2017, 2018, where he's like, where's Budda? Where's Baker? Find Baker. And when he's talking to Jared, all right, where's 3 at? Where's Budda Baker? Where is there? 33 at the time, whatever number he was. Where's Budda? Where's Budda? Maybe he's not that caliber of, oh my God, all pro level guy, but he's still one hell of a starting secondary man, Mark, Rams Nation. 38 tackles solo right now. He has about 80 something combined as he's in on the action all the time. He has 1 INT and then 4 pass breakups. So he's just around the ball all the time. And that's someone you got a game plan for as well, Mark, as a captain, a leader, a longtime Cardinal who's been a pain in our ass for years. He was one of the best players, and we got to watch out for him for sure, and specifically Stafford.
Yeah, and he's I think it's 7 Pro Bowl appearances, and I think he's 6-time nominee for the Cardinals Man of the Year. So he's a class act, and I would argue, if he weren't on the Cardinals, and maybe he will, be regardless, a Hall of Fame candidate, in my opinion. I mean, he's right on the edge there.
Mm.
A great player for a long time, class act. A guy that he'd be a great fit for the Rams. You know, I said he went through free agency a few years back, and I thought what a pickup that would be. But he stayed true to the Cardinals, and he's a hard guy to dislike, man. Playing in the for the other guys, but one of the best safeties of his generation. He really is. And guys that play on the Cardinals and sometimes back in the day, guys that played for the Rams didn't get the nod for the Hall of Fame like they should, didn't get the awards that they should. But Budda
Yeah.
Baker has been recognized his entire career for great play, and I really think he should get some. I'm sure he'll get nominated for the Hall of Fame when the time comes.
He'll definitely get some votes for sure. People in this era will think of him. And again, go find that old clip of Sean McVay in what a year that was, 2017, 2018. Where's Baker? Where's Budda Baker? Find him. So you got to find him this matchup, Sean. And Matthew now as our quarterback. Avoid that man if possible, because he's still got some good, ball skills to be able to grab an INT or make a big play for sure. But how about we move on to the Cardinal specialist, right? You got Chad Ryland as the kicker. You got Matt Hack as the punter / holder. And then the speedster, Greg Dortch, on punt return duty. So a group that, may not be wowing, but Dortch has got the speed to be able to, break through. So got to get some good kickoff coverage, right? Force the Cardinals into long field goal situations as, Ryland, excuse me, I'm not saying his name right, has shown that he has a leg, but not every kicker is perfect, but a respectable group, Mark.
Yeah, they are. I did a little comparison of kickers before the season started, and I didn't know much about Ryland. If I remember correctly, he had a passing grade. He's a very very good kicker, and Dorsch I think is a dangerous guy with the ball in his hands, really fast. And I guess our coverage has been okay, but we've had some scary moments. I think against this Cardinal team, we just kick it into the end zone a bunch of times. Hopefully.
We'll see. I think, we saw Mevis kick a little bit on kickoff. We'll see how they want to deploy this, but a respectable group on special teams for sure, everyone, with that side of the ball. But then, okay, how about the head-to-head stats, right? We talked about the history. That was fun. Talked about the roster, where the Cardinals are in this season in terms of wins, losses, and how close they've been many a times. And we went through the players and their best, where they got guys that you got to watch out for. They're not just some dumpster fire, XFL team or something. They're definitely not, and the record is misleading. So let's pull up those stats now and see how our Rams, your Los Angeles Rams, compared to these Arizona Cardinals. So as we pull this up here, everyone, we'll start with the Cardinals offense. Right now, 22.1 points per game, which is 20th best in the NFL. They're having a hard time scoring points. A lot of them were in the Murray, leading the charge. Yards per game, 337.3, which is 16th best, so they're middle of the pack. Rushing, 106, which is 24th, right, lower tier. Passing, though, a lot of this has to do with Jacoby Brissett recently. 8th in the entire NFL with 236.7. So, like we talked about earlier, Jacoby Brissett being inserted, big, tall, strong, athletic, and a big arm who can make all the throws. It's been wonders for them, and what a transformation as now, again, they're top 8 in the league. Red zone percentage, middle of the pack, 57.45% of the time they're scoring a touchdown, which is 17th. And then sacks, a lot of this had to do with Kyler running around and, doing dumb stuff. And Jacoby's gotten brought down too, but they've been sacked, or they've allowed 42 sacks, which is 4th most in the NFL. So this is a team that has had bad moments, not protected well, games where they have, but a lot of times, Jacoby trying to make a play, Kyler trying to make a play, they got brought down. And then turnovers. They've turned the ball over, gave it away 15 times, which is the 12th most in the NFL. So, Mark, to this Cardinals offense, right, it's Jacoby Brissett, save us the whole way, which is crazy that's the case. And there's going to be chances to get to him. There's going to be chances he's going to hold on to that football and make a big play. And hopefully we get home in time to get a sack. Because, again, this whole line with starters out, we're going to have our chances for sure.
Yeah, I've really lost faith in her pass rush recently, though. I don't know. Jared Verse has been so quiet. But, this will be a game. Maybe we wake up and get back on track, getting some quarterbacks on the ground. But I'll believe it when I see it.
That's true. We'll get to the defense shortly. As right now, points per game. How about that Rams defense? 17.5 given up, which is second best in the NFL. So they're still hovering in that top upper elite, group. And yes, unfortunately, the Carolina game skewed a lot of that, and that was
Oh,
lame.
yeah.
Yards per game, 13th, 315.1 they're giving up, which is close to top 10. We want to see that improve. Rushing, 107.8, which is 14th, around little upper mid tier of the NFL right there. We want to see that improve. Passing, well, thanks, Bryce Young. You got us on some big plays. 207.3, which is also 14th in the NFL. Wish that was a little bit better as well. But then the red zone, right? Are they scoring touchdowns when they get down there? Nope. Rams are the second best red zone defense in the NFL with 41.67% of the time they're giving up a touchdown. That's elite. And then sacks, 33, which is ninth, but they've had a lot of games this year where they haven't got to the quarterback enough, in our opinion, and the film isn't lying on that. They did not get to Bryce Young a ton. A lot of moments where he had time to throw and make a decision, or they could not bring him down. That's got to improve. Even though they are top 10 group, we expect them to be elite top 5 or better, right? And then turnovers, 20 of them, which is elite third most in the NFL, as they're getting INTs, forcing fumbles, recovering them. So that's nice to see, Mark. But to your point with the sacks, yeah, I need to see top 5 with this group. It feels like ever since they took the picture of recreating the fearsome foursome photo, like from that moment on, I feel like they've fallen off, like a little noticeable.
Yeah, the one stat here that I really like is the red zone discrepancy between their offense and our defense. That's a big edge for us. Although we have to remember, the Panthers weren't scoring in the red zone last week, were they? They were scoring from 40 yards out. So there's that. But overall, I like those red zone stats, and yeah, just got to get to the quarterback. Maybe you're onto something there. Maybe we did jinx our pass rush. Maybe having Aaron Donald come to town contributed to that too. But we still have the guys to get it done. There's something just missing. We're just not quite getting there. But we got to get moving on that. We got to improve that by playoff time, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. So there you go. Rams defense again had a stinker against Carolina, but we hope, based on the resume I just read off to you, that things will improve. And fingers crossed on that. I think that would be the case. And how about the Rams offense now, Mark? 27.8 points per game, sixth best in the NFL. Still hovering around that elite status. That's good to see. Yards per game, 360.1, which is eighth best. That's still top 10. Very good to see. The rushing, 113.5, which is 19th best. That is on the lower half of the league. Still want to see that improve. I will not change my stance on that. I know you feel the same, Mark. But again, on the flip side of that coin, as we always mention, when you're the fourth best passing team with 246.6 yards per game, then the rushing is going to suffer some. I get it, but I like to see those numbers be a lot more balanced just for the health of the offense. Red zone, hallelujah, Mark. Fourth best in the NFL, scoring touchdowns 66.04% of the time. My God, they were a bottom tier, bottom 10 group for years, and now here we are, top 4 in this Week 14 matchup. Beautiful to see. 17 sacks given up, which is the third least in the NFL. As Stafford, and the O-line may not be perfect many times, but they're getting rid of the ball, and plays are designed where, the O-line isn't getting put in bad situations a ton. Good. And then 11 giveaways, which is only the 24th most in the NFL. So they're on the lower group of not giving it away, which is a good thing. So, Mark, Rams Nation, this offense is elite. You got an MVP quarterback. But damn it, that run game better be used more, because I think at the end of the day, in these December games where Stafford may be aching a little bit, right? The O-line is tired of having to handle a bull rush. Let's go attack people. Give the quarterback, some breathing room to operate even more freely than he already demands himself, right? Run the ball, play action, and Stafford could be even more efficient. And I think that's just better health for the offenses. Again, not much to complain about, but that's my one thing.
Yeah, and we finally we have finally gotten there as far as a two-headed monster. Blake Corum bounced back from a bad game. He looked really, really good. And I think the Rams just need to learn to go with the hot hand, not necessarily automatically lean on Kyron. That was a game last week where Blake should have got more carries, although it wasn't that Kyron was playing bad. He did get banged up
Sure.
a little bit.
Yeah.
But I feel really good about where we are with our two running backs for sure.
I do as well. And let's use them a little bit more just so we can keep teams a little more honest instead of just Matthew Stafford chucking it a gazillion times. But I get the MVP case, right? And as long as we win, so be it, I suppose, right? Everyone. But there are your head to head stats. As here we have our injury report we'll talk about, right? Who is healthy for the Rams? Who is not? Who is healthy for the Cardinals? Who is not? So let's pull that up now as a decent little list for both teams here, Mark. Now
Yeah, some surprises too.
we'll start with the Cardinals and then we'll get to the Rams. So the Cardinals, Christian Jones dealing with a knee, Dumar Carlo dealing with an ankle, AJ Collier dealing with a knee. They're all limited. But then you got Taylor Demerson, did not practice. Josh Sweat, rest. We expect him to play, did not practice. Walter Nolan, the high draft pick, knee issue, did not practice. Max Melton, the corner heel, did not practice. Marvin Harrison with his heel, did not practice. Greg Dortch did not practice with a chest issue. Trey Benson with his knee still is having issues. And then Kelvin Beachum not practicing, doing it groin. So that's a lot of starters right there, Mark, who are not practicing. It's only Wednesday. We get that. They can definitely still suit up and play on Sunday. But they got a beat up crew right now.
Yeah, we seem to be the benefit of that every week. Teams get the Rams on their schedule, and all of a sudden, they got 8 guys out. But I just don't know how important it is. I mean, last week the Panthers, they had a bunch of guys step up and played really well against us. But it is, they're definitely a banged up squad, and to the Rams' advantage. But of course, the Rams are a little banged up as well.
They are. So let's get to those Rams, and we'll save one of these guys for last to talk about here. So Kyron Williams with an ankle, right? When he got rolled up on, he was limited. They're just being safe. Kyron just talked about the scar tissue saving him and, allowing his ankle to, feel fine after and, not have any big issues. Great to hear. Cameron Kitchens with the shoulder, he was limited. Omar Spates with his ankle was limited. Byron Young with his knee was limited. I'm sure there was a lot of bumps and bruises from the game and in that crappy weather. Devontae with a hamstring, give him a rest day per Sean McVay. He didn't practice. Darius Williams, pretty much a veteran rest with, I guess he had like a bone bruise of some kinds on his tibia or something like that. But Sean McVay expects him to be fine. Puna Ford with that calf did not practice. Sean McVay also said he expects him to be ready to go for Sunday. But all those guys, Mark, and especially Puna, we hope they're okay because we're going to need full strength players for this stretch run, especially you, Puna Ford. Please, whatever's dealing with that calf, when you are not in the game, my God, what a horrible performance from the D line stopping the run when he wasn't in there. Isn't that insane? So hopefully
Yeah,
he's up for sure, man.
yeah, it just became so apparent how important he is to this defense. And Devontae, I know Devontae is going to be good to go, but
Yeah.
I'd be interested. Well, I don't want to see it. What our red zone offense would look like without him at this point.
If,
So we need him in the red zone for sure. And Puna, yeah, two extremely important players. But compared to a lot of other teams' injury reports, we really can't complain. We no woe is me from the Rams crowd because we've been again knocking on wood once again here. For the most part, we've stayed pretty healthy compared to some of these other teams we've been facing for sure.
yeah, and that's benefited us 100%. And you know what else has been a weird, healthy player for us? Speaking of just health, Tutu Atwell. He had a hamstring issue, was put on IR. He's been practicing in full for now, the week and a half? And the Sean McVay continues to dodge questions about him, Mark, and not give full explanations of why he hasn't been activated off IR. And guys, this is ridiculous to think of. Let's be honest as I pull this back up here in my lower third. We paid this man $10 million to be a difference maker for the team. Now, at this juncture of the second half, third, fourth quarter of the season, you can call it, Sean McVay is saying it's a roster, construction predicament they're in of why he cannot be activated and has not been activated. All that, and you can pull up the press conferences and read the quotes, yada, yada, yada. You know what that means? He's not valuable enough to play for us right now. That is incredible. And what a crappy contract this has turned out to be, Mark, honestly. And I know we have been defenders of him. The film don't lie. When he gets thrown to and is featured, he is productive and makes tough catches, gets yardage. And we've seen it time and time again. Think of the seasons where Cooper was hurt. Think of the seasons where Puka and Cooper were hurt. When he was thrown out there, he was catching passes. Like, oh, that was 6 for 80 something today for Tutu. Oh, that was 5 for 73. Like he's not some scrub. And it's just crazy that here we are yet again, the 5th year with him, and Sean McVay, this mastermind genius, cannot, for the life of him, figure out a way to feature him more. And here we are, a $10 million starting caliber player getting starting money, cannot get to the active roster because they view him not as valuable as other guys. Isn't that insane?
Yeah, I think I can take a stab at explaining it, not defending it, but explaining it. And first of all, I wanted to mention, last year I did a little analysis. Data just came up on the screen somewhere, and I took note of it. That we all thought Demarcus Robinson had a great season last year, and he did. He was a big contributor. But targets, yards per target for Tutu were off the charts. He just wasn't getting the targets. And when he got the targets and he had the catches, he was super productive. But I think what the Rams are looking at is, you got 6 wide receivers right now, right? And you add a seventh, what do you want? It's just a lot of wide receivers to carry. And I think Xavier Smith, if they move him off, someone's going to claim him because he's shown just enough. I think they still like Jordan Whittington in the blocking game, and Mumfield, rookie. They're not going to move off from him. So they're I think they're just kind of hitting pause on it and seeing if anybody gets banged up that they can put on IR, or if there's another shoe that's going to fall that's going to maybe provide them the answer for this good problem they have. Not wanting to, I agree with you though, because I think Tutu should be ahead of Whittington, Mumfield, and Xavier as far as depth chart goes, but not significant enough in McVay's eyes. There's not enough separation between Tutu and those guys to justify carrying 7 wide receivers or moving one of those guys, try to waive them and get them onto the practice squad. So I think I'm guessing that's a dilemma. Like McVay said, it's a roster math problem at this point.
Yeah, but the point is, and I'll end it on this, is like, yes, it's a roster math problem, but your $10 million player can't crack into that. That's just crazy and disappointing, right? That money could have, in theory, now obviously hindsight is 2020, but that $10 million could have been allocated elsewhere. And you can say who was available and all that. Of course, but $10 million for someone to be purposely not activated and not be featured is crazy. I mean, it's disappointing. So to the injury report earlier was Tutu Atwell is, full participant. This is the second week in a row he's been a full participant. And
I actually misspoke. They only have 5 wide receivers right now. They got Whittington, Smith, Nakua, Mumfield, and Adams. So a 6 wide receiver, you think there'd be room for one, right? But
yeah, it's crazy. And I get it, right? You got to have depth for the secondary of the defense, the tight end room, and linemen. I understand all that, but
I think that I assume they had 6 because most teams I think carry 6. But when you got 4 active tight ends, something's got to give.
I get it, but they're not even running 13 personnel like that since Higbee's been out. So I mean, what's the point of that? So anyway, we'll see how things unfold. It's not too late for Tutu to be an impactful player, but again, when he gets thrown to and is featured, he is a difference maker. It's the truth, whether it be catches or drawing PIs or holding or whatever it is. He's out there. Positive things seem to happen. So that's just why are we going to just shelve that and keep that at bay? I don't understand that, especially for the money he's getting. I mean, come on, McVay. You got to figure out a way to feature him, man. Get him up to speed and get him out there. So, anywho, there's your Rams drama with injuries and what's going on there. But with all that said, everyone, I mean, these Cardinals team, they are no slouch as we finally get to the keys to victory part of this episode, right? How are these Rams going to beat these dang Cardinals out there in Glendale, Arizona? As the weather, should be good. They have an enclosed stadium, right, where they can open the roof. I assume if the weather's bad, it'll be closed, so weather won't be a factor. The game's on grass, right? That always was a plus for football players, and they always enjoyed the grass field. Hopefully that grass has been kept up and clean so nobody's slipping, sliding like the Super Bowl, Chiefs, Eagles a couple of years ago, where everyone was complaining about that then. But Mark, man, people don't like the trap game mantra. People classified the Panther game as such, but we ignored that. We thought the Rams would take care of business. We're entering another game that is eerily similar, but a team that this season is really toast, and they're going to be trying to play spoiler. And, the coaching staff trying to save their jobs, right? If they keep losing 3 wins and what is this, year 3, year 4 for Gannon, not good for them either. So they're going to be trying to upset the quote unquote best team in the NFL, just like the Panthers were.
Yeah, I mean, these two teams know each other. I don't think there'll be any really big surprises. We know what makes their engine run there, mainly the tight end on offense, in my opinion, Marvin Harrison, a stout quarterback. But, McVay knows how to attack these guys. I don't really consider it a trap game since we did lose last week. If we had won, it might have been. But I think that loss will hopefully be a little bit of a wake-up call, and this team will be ready to play and get back to business. It's got to take care of the ball this time out, really is what it's going to come down to.
It feels that way, as we'll get to the keys of victory. From you, Mark, give me the I guess the headlines on offense. What do they need to do outside of what you just said right now? Take care of that damn
sorry,
football.
I got ahead of the program again, didn't I?
Nah, who cares?
Yeah, I think I think they need to run the ball against this defense, and they're probably still going to be winging it all over the field, though. And if they do, it's just about ball security, finishing drives, and they've proven they can do all of that. They just got to get back to playing disciplined, functional football, not turning the ball over on offense, and finish drives. And if we finish drives, we should be fine. I don't think it's going to take a ton of points to beat this Cardinals team. We just, if we have a similar output that we did last week, if we score 28 points on this Cardinals team, we'll be fine. We'll win this game for sure.
Yeah, I agree for sure. But I mean, my keys to victory on offense, everyone, against this Cardinals defense, everything starts with that front of theirs. We highlighted Sweat, we highlighted Campbell, Nolan, the high draft pick. I mean, those are 3 guys that can pop and make a big play and swing the outcome in their favor at any moment, truthfully. So my thing is, let's not let them dictate the terms and get those big freaking natures into pass rush situations. If we can avoid that as often as possible, stay ahead of the chains, being second and manageable. And what does that mean? Same thing like you said earlier. Run that damn football. The Cardinals, they've had issues, defending a lot of inside runs, especially gap scheme stuff, where I feel like I've watched some film on them. Not every single game. I'm a busy man, sorry. But a lot of games I feel like they've gotten gashed up the middle in like a duo concept we do. Sometimes some inside zone. They just not performed well overall against inside runs. So let's attack Sweat. Let's attack Calais and Nolan if he's out there and make them have to man up and bully ball. Because if they get to use their athleticism against the pass, that's when things can go haywire. And of course, we're going to throw the ball with Stafford, duh. But if it's just a throw fest where McVay pulls out the McVay special, I call it, where he just forgets about the run game and doesn't call it as often as he should, then things could get a little wacky. Because the last 2 matchups where we were clearly better than this Cardinals defense, they held us to less than 10 points the first matchup where we got obliterated and abused, and then the Saturday game last year where they held us in check to about, less than 2 touchdowns, 14 points, less than 14. So he comes up with good game plans. He has his guys ready to go. And of course, Buda Baker is a big part of that as well. But everyone that thinks this is going to be some ass kicking by the Rams offense, I hope so. But in years past, this coach, Gannon, with this specific scheme, has done a good job against McVay. So let's get them into bully ball, and let's see who wins that battle, because letting the freaks of nature, tee off on our O-line, I don't think that's a good setup for our success, Mark.
Yeah, and you're right. We scored 23 points against them in 2 games last year. So there's that.
Yeah. So that damn coach, despite his 3-9 record, he's got this defense playing good, which they have been the entire year, as they've been losing by less than a touchdown, feels like every game. So we're gonna have to see if this Rams offense can keep up MVP form, especially with Stafford, and run the damn ball, McVay, please. But back to you, Mark. What are the keys to victory on defense? What do this Rams defense need to do to, let's be real, just keep Jacoby Brissett in check?
Well, going into this game, I would not have been concerned about their running attack at all. But with Puna Ford, it's all about Puna Ford being able to go and be able to play at a high level. If he can do that, I think they're going to have a really difficult time running the ball. If Puna is out or not 100%, they're going to challenge us in the run game, despite not having a lot of success there. And then it's really, I understand Marvin Harrison being a big threat, but we got to limit Trey McBride. Trey McBride could easily come out of this game with 10 catches for 112 yards, something like that, and a touchdown. So we got to figure out how to way to limit his productivity. Now, again, everything will revolve around Puna's availability and his what level he can play at, in my opinion.
That's a major factor. I couldn't agree more. As my keys to victory is very similar to yours, Mark, right? Please, Puna, heal. Go in that hyperbolic time chamber. Shout out to my Dragon Ball fans out there. Like Matthew Stafford did, right? The immortal chamber, whatever that was. Let's get that calf feeling better. And my goodness, again, the difference when he was out there and was not, even if he wasn't 100%, was drastic. So the Cardinals are going to test us, right? So what is my keys to victory outside of the health of players? Man, they need to get interior pressure constantly on Jacoby. Jacoby is an athletic guy. He can outrun outside the pocket, of course, but he wants to stay in that pocket. He wants to survey the field, have full vision, and launch, laser beams, which he can do. So my thing is, Kobe Turner, Braden, Tyler Davis, Puna when he's in, I mean, they just need to play significantly better overall, because they're going to test us with Knight or DeMarcado or, Benson magically heals. Probably not. They're going to test us, and they're going to jump into their multiple tight end sets with McBride and the others that we mentioned earlier. And they're going to run that damn football, and they're going to test us, because Gannon's a defensive guy. He believes in the run game, and they're going to try to exploit the bad performance, and hopefully on their end, it'll carry over from how we played against Carolina into this game, which I hope doesn't happen. But that's going to be the main thing. I need the front guys to play better. And how do you do that? Get off the damn blocks. It feels like when I watched film this last game, Mark, that a lot of the technique wasn't sloppy, but it wasn't crisp and clean getting off blocks. And maybe the wet turf had something to do with that. Sure, there was some factor in it, but it just felt like they could not get off blocks the majority of that game. And if they do that, they'll have a chance. And they got to get that interior pressure on a pocket passer like Jacoby. Come on, Kobe. Come on, Braden. It's your time to shine. And no different from the outside edge guys, right? Jared, condense it, because then they'll force him into those guys, right? Pressure up the gut. We'll force Jacoby into a verse, into a Byron, into a Josiah Stewart, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think all that will benefit our defense. And, of course, let's get a Keller Witherspoon on Marvin Harrison, please. All right, let's get a bigger body guy on a bigger body guy. And then I'd like to see Cameron Curl on Trey McBride, right? A little bit more physical safety on a more physical tight end pass catcher. And then let's let's hope that we just don't get outplayed and it doesn't carry 2 weeks in a row. I think that's long story short, Mark.
Yeah, I feel like last week you watch that game and I was just waiting for a defense to make a play, you know, and they've
Yeah,
been
no kidding.
so they've come through for us over and over and over again all season. Maybe we've been a little bit spoiled, fourth and one stops, takeaways at critical moments, red zone stops, and in this past week. It just was not happening for this defense. It was like all the big plays, no one stepped up. Everything evaporated as far as what we've seen from this defense all season long. So they need a bounce back game. They really do,
Yeah.
for their own psyche. If nothing else, that they can't have two duds in a row. It just can't happen.
They can't. And again, watch that orchestrated Rams film breakdown if you haven't of Rams Panthers, everyone. I mean, the defense just had total mental issues on two of the most big impactful plays of the game, and then throughout that game as well. And then of course I talked about the front just has to just play better, man, be more physical. But we've seen them do it, which is a good thing. It's not like we haven't and we're hoping it'll change all of a sudden. Let's go, man. We're playing a team that's beat up and beat the hell. Got to win this game. They dropped this game. Chances of winning the West and having a good season in the playoff tournament just plummet massively. But I mean, Mark, what's your early score prediction on this game? I mean, how confident are you feeling that the Rams will bounce back? What do you got?
I'm confident. I think the score I gave you was 27-14, and I'll stick with that. But I could also see this devolving into a battle of field goals, which 27-14, the 14 doesn't doesn't reflect that. But it could come down to a bunch of field goals. In my opinion, it'll be relatively close, but I think the Rams. This is just not a team that's going to lose two straight to the Panthers and then to the Cardinals. At least that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm believing. Because I wouldn't have, 2 weeks ago, I was looking at the schedule and we get a little cocky as fans. I'm like, okay, Arizona's a W, Carolina's a W. We got to worry about Lions and the Seahawks. And now here we are facing a potential second straight loss to a bottom dweller, is what they are, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel confident they're going to come out with a win, but I would not be surprised if it was dicey at the end. But I'll stick with my 27-14, which is a little bit of a cop out, but that's my score.
It's a realistic score. I mean, if the Rams offense continues to just be who they are, they'll score 27, 28 points, which is what they've been
Yeah,
averaging. So that's
right.
nothing, that's not really copping out too bad. And my score, everyone, I think this is going to be a close one, man. 24-20 Rams will win, but I think it'll be a nail biter. And again, we talked about it earlier. Jonathan Gannon has coached his undermanned defense to play well against McVay's offense for years now. It feels like they've held them in check. The problem with them is their offenses have been abysmal against our defenses in a lot of these matchups throughout the years. But no doubt about it, Gannon gets this crew ready. So I think this Rams offense isn't going to have some highlight reel mega day like they've been having for many weeks. I hope that's the case, but just based on the history and the tendencies between these two head coaches, offensive minded and defensive minded, I expect, Rams to hit the under on what they've been averaging, 24 points, which isn't a bad day, but a lot of the matchups earlier throughout the years have been way less than that. Wouldn't be shocked to see that. And I do think, look at the bigger body receivers have been an issue for this secondary. So don't be shocked if you see a Marvin Harrison have a fade ball and he gets a crazy catch. Don't be shocked if you see McBride have a crazy catch and run and gets us on a big, third and goal or some crap like that. Or Jacoby makes a big time throw and throws a laser beam and gets us on that. I feel like that's very, very likely to happen just based on our own tendencies throughout the season on defense. So I'm predicting the nail biter, Mark, maybe a couple field goals, short field goals. Mevis, gets us the 20. Maybe we score another touchdown, maybe late to kind of break away and feel as better. And maybe Cardinals get a late touchdown to kind of scare us at the end. But I'm expecting a nail biter this entire match. This is another NFC West battle that you just never know what you're going to get. And hopefully Rams win is what we get.
Yeah, I think it'll be very telling the Cardinals' first two possessions on offense and how this game's going to go.
Sure, yeah.
That'll be That's what I'll be. Well, we'll all be watching that, of course. But if the Cardinals have some success on offense early in the game, that I'll start to get really worried. But what we'll
Yeah.
hope is, a 3-and-out. Can we get a 3-and-out early? A couple early punts, and I think that'll give this defense some momentum. Start to feel it and start to unleash some terror on this Cardinals offense. And but I'm not saying that's going to happen. But that's that I think those first two Cardinal offensive possessions will tell us a lot about how this game's going to go.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, they have to get their act together, everyone. And if they do, they will play good football. That's just the truth. We've seen it too many
Yeah.
times. But man, oh man, I mean, there's a lot at stake, everyone. Now, Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford has said throughout the last handful of weeks that they're not paying attention to playoff seeding. They're not close enough where those outcomes should matter to them yet. Or, hey, we got to take it a game at a time, which is true. All that mentality is right. But let's be honest. Players pay attention. Matthew Stafford will say all the right things, but I'm sure there's plenty of guys and coaches in that locker room who are paying attention to how things are unfolding, right? And this game is significant. And the Rams got to treat all the rest of these games coming up, including this next one, like playoff games. Win out. Let's get a top seed. Let's get rest so our injured reserve starters have more time to heal up and come back and play good football for us. I think people are forgetting that aspect.
Yeah, it's true.
Less game for Quinn Lake to heal up if we have to play a wild card weekend. One less game for Tyler Higbee to heal up and feel better for the playoff push, which feels like he's been not 100% for years now right? And other guys, right? More time for Akello to feel better and get back to his number one corner spot, et cetera, et cetera. So
Big
I say
Rob,
that to say that
yeah.
this game matters. Win it, advance to next week, and treat it like playoff games, because if they don't and we have to travel as a wild card team, we can look back to a dumb loss against the Niners, a dumb loss to the Eagles, a dumb loss to the Panthers, and if the Rams screw around, maybe a dumb loss to the Arizona Cardinals. And we don't want to look back and feel those things as fans, and I know the players and coaches would as well. So that's my fiery speech to say, whatever you got to do, Rams fans out there, for some good juju for our team, do it, because these games matter big time.
I remember it was only 2 weeks ago we destroyed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, it's hopefully just a blip on the radar against the Panthers, and we get back to business here.
Yep, get back to business and get that damn W, everyone, right? But hey, those are our keys to victory, everyone. And thanks for tuning in on this game preview episode. And, oh, baby, the final holiday stretches here as the battle for supremacy in the National Football Conference is in full swing, right? Seattle on our tails, Niners on our tails, and we still got to face, a Lions team that is good, and Seattle. So take care of business, get the Cardinals, and please don't stress us out more than we already are. Rams organization, players, coaches, etc. But I mean, Mark, anything else before we get out of here?
No, that's all. They enjoy the game, and just go Rams. Hopefully, they get their act together, and they play more like that team we saw against the Bucs than the team we saw play against the Panthers. That's all we can hope for.
Yep, that's all we can hope for, and I think they will get that damn job done. But hey, if you're on YouTube, everyone, subscribe to the channel, like this video, turn on that notification bell if you haven't already. And if you are on the audio only or podcast only side of things, share the audio, share the podcast with all your fellow Rams fans. And me and Mark appreciate you guys doing any of those options because it helps other Rams fans see our content. And oh, baby, gonna be a wild one out there in the desert, but I think our Rams will get it done. So, hey, rep that blue and gold, rep it proud, rep it loud, and hey, always throw up those damn horns. Go Rams, baby.